On April 28, 2019, a big fire tore through Tambovka village in Russia. Some troublemakers started the fire, and it quickly spread over a large area. Above all this chaos, on top of a big metal tower, was a nest belonging to a Far Eastern stork, a very rare bird in Russia. A wildlife group had set up a camera there to watch the stork and its family. The camera caught a sad video of the fire burning below the nest. Luckily, the stork and its chicks were safe. You can see the stork getting up and walking around in its nest, looking worried as the fire burns below. It must have felt the heat coming up. Fires like this one destroy many nests every year. The Far Eastern stork is a very special bird in Russia, and the people there try hard to keep it safe. Back in April 2006, coastal constructors Southwest Ventures embarked on an ambitious project. Their plan was to erect a 31-story luxury condo complex in South Padre Island, Texas, boasting 147 condos, each priced at $2 million. The complex was to include a gym, a spa, and several pools, making Ocean Tower one of the tallest structures in the Rio Grande Valley. But by 2008, trouble surfaced when developers discovered significant cracks in the parking garage's support columns, compromising the building's safety. Construction was promptly halted in May. Then, on December 13, 2009, the entire structure, all 55,000 tons of it, was brought down. The grand vision for Ocean Tower ultimately crumbled. There was a significant oversight after constructing the underground parking garage. The plan was to use expandable clay above the garage to support the weight of the building. However, this step was skipped, and the tower was built directly on top of the garage. To make matters worse, the foundation was sand. This led to the building's core sinking almost 16 inches into the earth. Rather than admitting the mistake, the developers initially reassured investors that Ocean Tower would be more robust and secure than planned. This assurance was retracted months later when the failure of the project became undeniable. On December 12, 2013, near Germantown, Wisconsin, a town with around 20,000 residents, a massive 40-car pileup occurred on a busy highway during a heavy snowstorm. It's surprising, given Wisconsin's reputation for snow-savvy drivers. Initially, everyone was driving cautiously, which is smart in such weather. But trouble started when two cars in the middle lane collided. One car skidded and rear-ended the car in front, while the other car spun out, hitting another vehicle in the right lane. This set off a chain reaction, with more vehicles skidding off the road in the low visibility. The situation became tense when a big 18-wheeler managed to narrowly avoid the chaos. Another car ended up off the road on the grass, possibly a safer spot than the road at that point. For a moment, the highway calmed down, with some drivers checking on others and some cars managing to get back on the road. But then, a second wave of drivers, trying to get past the initial crash site, ended up causing another series of collisions, completely blocking the highway this time. Officer Tim Miller, heading to another accident at the time, likened the scene to a NASCAR crash that just wouldn't end. Incredibly, despite the scale of the pileup, no serious injuries were reported. In Varese, Italy, a small city near the Swiss border with a population of around 880,000, a group of construction workers experienced a terrifying incident that would change their perspective on cranes forever. This happened on May 9, 2017, at the Arches Stabio railway yard. A large crawler crane was tasked with lifting a huge section of a new viaduct into position. However, the operation took a dramatic turn when the crane tipped over, resulting in a shocking moment captured in a viral video. Miraculously, despite the crane crashing down, no one was injured in the incident. Armstrong, celebrated as a pioneering astronaut and aeronautical engineer, was the first man to set foot on the moon, debunking any conspiracy theories doubting this feat. He's hailed as an American icon. However, his journey to the moon was nearly cut short by a perilous incident. On May 6, 1968, Armstrong was piloting the Lunar Landing Research Vehicle, a craft he was deeply familiar with after 20 previous flights. Yet, during this particular test, a mechanical failure led to a loss of control. Initially, Armstrong seemed to manage the LLRV smoothly, aiming for a landing, only to take off again, hinting at the moment the malfunction occurred. The situation escalated, forcing Armstrong to eject at an altitude of 200 feet and deploy his parachute instantly. The LLRV crashed in a fiery wreck, while Armstrong descended safely back to Earth. Designed to simulate the moon's lesser gravity, the LLRV was a critical, albeit hazardous, part of training. Armstrong's experience with these training vehicles, despite the risks, was instrumental in the successful Apollo 11 moon landing on July 20, 1969. Promontory. Utah might not be a name everyone recognizes, but it's a place with a big mark on American history. It's known for the moment in May 1869 when the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads were joined together by Leland Stanford hammering in the final golden spike. This event marked the completion of the first railroad across the United States. Fast forward to modern times, Promontory has taken on a new role, far from its 19th century railroad days. It's now a site where NASA tests its rockets. On a day late in August 2010, a crowd gathered to witness the test of NASA's latest Ares 1 rocket engine. As soon as it ignited, the incredible force of the engine was clear for all to see.
2, 1, fire.
Three, two, one, fire. And just like that, the Ares 1 rocket sends an immense fireball soaring into the hillside. Picture something straight out of Dragon Ball Z, like Goku firing off a massive Kamehameha wave. The rocket keeps blasting away for a solid 2 minutes and 15 seconds until the fuel is completely spent. What's left is just a huge smoke cloud and a bunch of ecstatic scientists. Built by Alliant Tech Systems, or ATK, this rocket was a powerhouse, capable of generating around 3.6 million pounds of thrust. It was all part of the Constellation program, with Ares 1 intended to be a key launch vehicle. However, in October 2010, the project was discontinued by President Obama, meaning Ares 1 never achieved liftoff. Even so, the test was a thrilling spectacle for as long as it lasted. Colombia is carved into 32 departments instead of states or provinces. Antioquia, standing as the 6th largest, is mostly mountains and valleys. It's home to Medellin, Colombia's capital, stretching all the way to a tropical paradise by the Caribbean coast. On March 12, 2023, construction workers in Antioquia started hearing unsettling cracking sounds from a retaining wall. This wasn't new to them. It was the second time they faced such a situation at the same site. Anticipating a landslide, they wisely stepped back, helplessly watching as their efforts crumbled away.
¡Ay, gonorrea como de vino! ¡Dios mío, bendito sea! ¡Ay, Padre Celestial! ¡Ay, Dios mío! Gracias a Dios que estamos de ahí. ¡Ay, marica! ¡Ay, Jehová, bendito Señor! ¡Vea! ¡Ay, marica! ¡Gran gonorrea, huevón!
This problematic retaining wall was associated with the Pacifica 1 project, aimed at constructing a road linking Bolombolo with Medellin and southwestern Antioquia. Ironically, retaining walls are designed to avert exactly this kind of collapse. Their purpose is to strengthen soil and enhance its capacity to bear loads. Clearly, there was a miscalculation or oversight in the soil testing for this project, given that this is the second occurrence of such a failure. The person responsible for the soil tests either lacked experience or significantly erred in their evaluation. Light rail trains offer city transport, being smaller and slower than subways, but larger and quicker than trams. On September 21, 2022, a runaway light rail train in Aurora, Colorado, crashed off its tracks, splitting into two pieces at Exposition Avenue and Sable Boulevard. The train was expected to slow down to 10 miles per hour for a sharp turn, but it appears to have been significantly over this speed. The video shows the train speeding towards the turn on the right, and as it attempts to navigate the curve, it tilts and derails, with the front part sliding out of view and the back part nearly completing the turn. It was reported to be traveling at around 39 miles per hour, almost 4 times the recommended speed. There were 24 passengers on board during the incident, with 3 needing hospital treatment. Occasionally, the Israeli military carries out exercises in the Jordan Valley, involving a wide range of military equipment, including tanks. On November 22, 2020, after completing a day of exercises, the troops had to return to their base, which involved the task of loading an IDF Merkava tank onto a flatbed truck. This process is preferred because it conserves fuel, considering tanks are slow-moving and consume a lot of fuel. However, on this particular day, loading the tank onto the truck proved to be the most challenging task they encountered. What you observe being ejected from the side is the tank's fire defense mechanism activating automatically during the flip, which at least confirmed its functionality. Fortunately, the tank's driver emerged with only minor injuries, attributing the accident to a stuck gas pedal, which caused the unexpected forward jerk and subsequent tumble off the flatbed. These Merkava tanks are quite the investment, with each costing over $4.5 million. The incident raised questions about the tank's durability. If it couldn't withstand such an accident, it would defy its purpose. Oil remains a dominant force in the global economy, enticing companies to delve into its extraction despite the risks. A prime example of these risks manifested in the Deepwater Horizon disaster of 2010. Located 41 miles off Louisiana's coast, this oil rig was probing a new site when it encountered a catastrophic blowout. Methane gas surged from the well, through the drilling pipes, igniting an explosion and fire on the rig. A large-scale rescue operation ensued, airlifting 94 crew members to safety. But tragically, 11 workers were lost and presumed dead from the explosion. After burning for over a day, the rig succumbed to the ocean on April 22nd. The disaster escalated as approximately 38,000 barrels of oil leaked into the ocean daily for 87 days, culminating in over 210 million gallons of oil spilled. The well was finally sealed in July, but the aftermath lingered, with BP facing federal criminal charges in November 2012, including 11 counts of manslaughter. BP was temporarily barred from new U.S. government contracts and faced substantial financial penalties. Cleanup efforts and legal settlements have cost BP over $65 billion, making the Deepwater Horizon spill one of the gravest environmental catastrophes to date, with its impact echoing along Gulf shores years later. St. Simons Sound, located off Georgia's southeast coast, is a critical hub for maritime trade, with large tankers departing from the Port of Brunswick towards global destinations. However, the MV Golden Ray, a colossal 660-foot car carrier constructed in South Korea, met an unfortunate fate mere minutes after leaving Brunswick on September 8, 2019. Heading for Baltimore before its final journey to the Middle East with 4,300 cars, the vessel capsized 23 minutes post-departure. It's suspected the ship's side may have gotten lodged in the Sound's 32-foot deep seabed while it began to list or lean disastrously. Miraculously, all 23 crew members and the captain were rescued, although 4 required Coast Guard intervention. The environmental risks were significant, given the ship's full fuel tanks and the diesel and antifreeze within the onboard cars. Salvage efforts were hindered by fire and water damage, declaring the ship, worth $80 million, a total loss. The salvage, which involved cutting the ship into 6 parts and removing nearly 20,000 pounds of debris, concluded on September 26, 2021, costing an estimated $840 million. The investigation pointed to human error in the ship's stability calculations as a primary cause of the capsizing, highlighting the grave consequences of overlooked details in maritime operations. In Cleveland, Ohio, the Fulton Bridge has been a staple for locals, connecting parts of the city over the Cleveland Metropark Zoo. Originally built and open to the public with 6 lanes, this structure saw alterations over the years, with lanes being reduced until only 2 remained. By 2007, the decision was made to take down the old bridge, which had been standing since before the more modern 1932 version. On April 28, 2007, demolition teams prepared to dismantle the bridge with explosives. However, just as they were about to proceed, a glitch in the wiring caused a slight hiccup, delaying the explosion. Quick to address the issue, the team managed to rectify the problem and proceeded with the plan to bring down the bridge. On April 28th, the explosion only took down part of the Fulton Bridge, leaving the section over the railroad track standing. This part was set to be demolished the following week. The bridge had seen better days before this event. In the late 90s, they even had to put up a protective canopy to stop bits of the bridge from falling into the zoo area. Plus, in 2006, they discovered asbestos in the bridge's waterproofing material. As for the zoo animals near the demolition site, there's no need to worry. The zoo staff kept them safely in their indoor spaces during the blast to make sure they weren't disturbed or harmed. The USS Tarawa, a Navy assault ship, was active from 1976 to 2009 and named for the World War II Battle of Tarawa. It stretched 820 feet in length and could hit speeds of 24 knots or about 28 miles per hour. On January 17, 2001, while trying to anchor in Victoria Harbor near Hong Kong, what should have been routine turned risky. The port anchor's brake assembly malfunctioned, leading to the anchor chain plunging into the sea. The speed at which the chain descended due to gravity was astonishing. No one was injured when the final part of the chain snapped with a force reminiscent of a bullwhip. To give you an idea, the anchor and chain together weighed around 28,000 pounds or 104 tons. This video is filled with nautical terms, but thankfully, a US Navy slideshow breaks down the whole operation for us. A fathom, for instance, is a nautical unit measuring 6 feet. The anchor chain is made up of segments called shots, each being 15 fathoms or 90 feet long. You can tell you're at the end of a shot by the white links in the chain. This particular footage is from inside the USS Tarawa's windlass room, where the crew controls the anchor and chain release. They're meant to secure the chain with a brake, operated by a hand wheel, which interacts with teeth in a compartment to halt the chain. However, if the brake fails, the chain, with each link weighing about 250 pounds, uncontrollably rushes out. In such cases, the safest action is to move aside and let the chain drop to be retrieved later. Working on the open ocean brings dangers beyond just drowning. Take the experience of an oil rig worker whose life nearly ended one night on November 14, 2011. The rig was anchored offshore, and the deck crew was performing their routine tasks when suddenly, disaster struck. A chain stretched across the deck snapped as it bent over the edge, lashing back towards the worker. Miraculously, he dodged just in time, his yellow helmet flashing across the screen as he moved out of harm's way. After the incident, he and a few others congregated around the broken chain, with him sitting down, likely to calm his racing heart. His colleagues checked on him, and you can't help but think he wished he was anywhere but there at that moment. This incident illustrates the immense tension the chain was under, showcasing a dramatic conversion of potential to kinetic energy. Not because it was being pulled rapidly, but because of the sheer force it released, similar to a snapped elastic band. Anchor brake failures are often attributed to prolonged wear and tear, so when such a failure happened on a newly constructed boat in Germany, everyone immediately looked to the shipbuilders for answers. The date was March 16, 2008. The crew was conducting tests on the chain brake system to make sure it was functioning properly. Initially, the test appeared to be successful. A crew member released a few feet of chain, then activated the brakes, followed by releasing a bit more chain, judged by the passing of white-marked sections. By our estimation, he had let out 2 shots of chain, which is about 180 feet in total. But then, something went drastically wrong as they approached the 3rd shot. Between 9 and 10 shots of chain were lost before the anchor finally came to a halt. This stoppage could have been due to the brakes eventually engaging or the chain reaching its bitter end. Looking on the positive side, discovering a flaw with the ship while still docked is far preferable to facing such issues out in the open ocean. Steel is a fundamental material used in everything from buildings and cars to bridges, trains, and kitchen appliances. To cater to these diverse demands, steel is heated to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit in steel mills, making it malleable for shaping through various machines. This process, however, comes with significant risks. Machine blockages can cause steel cobbles, which are highly unpredictable. A CCTV video from an Indian mill captures one such incident. Workers were near the machines when a malfunction in one of the rollers caused it to eject a loop of molten steel high into the air, showering down near workers who quickly moved to safety. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The video shows the molten steel forming a spiral on the floor. After the incident, and once the belt stopped, workers cautiously came back to assess the situation. You might wonder why the emergency stop wasn't used. Shutting down abruptly could result in the steel cooling and solidifying within the machinery, making it nearly impossible to remove. So, the workers opted to let the molten steel cool naturally before cutting it away with torches designed for such tasks. When it comes to disposing of batteries, it's crucial to understand that lithium-ion batteries need to be handled differently from lead-acid ones. Recycling lead-acid batteries usually involves crushing, but if a lithium-ion battery accidentally ends up in the crusher, it could explode due to the pressure. A clip from a recycling plant illustrates the potential danger. Lead-acid batteries are conveyed to an off-screen crusher, while a worker diligently removes any misplaced items from the belt. His colleague adds more dead batteries to the pile, inadvertently including a lithium-ion battery. It goes unnoticed, possibly when the sorter is distracted, and then explodes within the machinery, prompting an immediate evacuation. Thankfully, no one was injured. The EPA emphasizes that lithium-ion batteries should not be thrown away with regular trash, but rather taken to specialized recycling centers or local hazardous waste facilities to avoid such risks. On May 29, 2017, CCTV footage from Kyiv, Ukraine, captured a bizarre and startling event. Suddenly, the ground started trembling, followed by the explosive burst of an underground water pipe. A woman walking nearby was caught off guard as mud, water, and debris erupted, drenching the vicinity and covering parked cars. Water quickly began to flood the streets. A man, curious about the noise, stepped onto his porch, luckily situated up a hill, away from the chaos. Miraculously, no one was injured despite the unexpected explosion. The cause remains unknown, but the intensity suggests a significant buildup of pressure beneath the surface. A similar incident unfolded in Turkey in June 2020, triggered shortly after a road crew excavated a section of the pavement. As cars navigated a dirt patch, the ground under one vehicle ominously swelled, and then water violently burst from the pipes below, reaching tree heights. The sudden rupture created a 16-foot sinkhole, demonstrating the powerful forces at play beneath our streets. The Dallas Museum of Art houses 24,000 objects, with some dating back to 3000 BC and others being more contemporary. This Dallas landmark almost faced disaster on April 3, 2015. The museum had planned a special event requiring a huge tent on its front lawn, necessitating a crane for its setup. Unfortunately, the crane operator misjudged the counterweight needed. A key piece near the event area is the DMA's renowned sculpture, Ave, by Mark de Suvero, standing on the south lawn since 1973, which the tent setup was supposed to accommodate. While lifting a crossbar, evidently heavier than anticipated, the crane became unbalanced, its back legs lifting off the ground, signaling the impending fall. As the crane collapsed, dropping the crossbar, one worker noticed too late as his colleagues dashed away. The crane ended up on the museum's roof without causing significant damage, narrowly missing a second-story balcony by mere feet. The crane's fall ejected the operator, who sustained minor injuries and was hospitalized. There are times when using large equipment is necessary, like a flatbed truck tasked with transporting a huge bulldozer up a slope. The details of where and when this event happened are unclear, but it serves as a prime example of the importance of properly distributing weight.
¡Se fue! Mierda, coño.
The situation quickly deteriorated when the flatbed's front tires lifted off the ground, making it impossible for the driver to steer. The crucial moment when the entire setup began to uncontrollably roll back down the hill is audible in the footage. Luckily, the vehicles trailing behind had the sense to keep their distance. The driver was fortunate that the cab didn't end up flipping over in the end. Despite no injuries, there was undoubtedly a lot of explaining to be done afterward. Diesel engines are roughly 20% more efficient than their gasoline counterparts, which explains their widespread use in heavy-duty trucks and machinery. However, they have a weakness known as diesel runaway. This occurs when the engine inadvertently ingests hydrocarbon or flammable vapors, which it then uses as an alternative fuel source. When this happens, the engine's RPMs can skyrocket uncontrollably until the engine ultimately breaks down. Participants at a truck pull event witnessed a diesel runaway situation up close. Fortunately, they were prepared and knew exactly how to manage the emergency.
Let's give him a big hand.
When faced with a diesel runaway, most people's instinct is to shut off the engine, but that's ineffective. The problem isn't the fuel from the tank. It's the external vapors being sucked in through the air intake that keep the engine running. as if these vapors have hijacked the engine's controls. Turning the key off won't do anything. The only solution to a diesel runaway is to cut off the air supply. This can be achieved by either physically covering the air intake or using a specific type of fire extinguisher designed to suffocate the engine. Although it might not be visible in the footage, this is the action the people in the video took to address the situation. Competitive tractor pulling might be something new to you, but it's quite the spectacle. Known as the world's heaviest sport, it's not about speed or completing laps. The whole game is about pulling power, specifically how far a driver can drag a hefty weighted sled. Participants bring their beefed-up farm tractors to the challenge, attaching them to a sled loaded with weights. As the tractor advances, the weight shifts forward, making the sled progressively harder to pull. The challenge continues until the tractor can no longer move forward. The distance each tractor manages to haul the sled is measured meticulously, down to the thousandth of an inch. However, pushing these modified engines to their limits sometimes leads to failure. For instance, there was a driver in 2018 who might have set a record if only his engine hadn't given out. Lucky Ducky managed to pull the sled about 121 feet before his engine gave out. Given the specialized nature of these tractor engines, pinpointing the exact cause of the failure isn't straightforward. The standard track for these events is 30 feet wide and 320 feet long. Achieving a distance that spans the entire track is known as a full pull. When several competitors achieve full pulls, they face off in a pull-off to decide the ultimate winner. The 2018 event saw an intense competition, culminating in a 5-way pull-off. Blower Power clinched the victory, reaching a tie-breaking distance of 190 feet. Helveg Rocket Science is a well-known tractor pulling team from the Netherlands. In 2012, the team participated in Ems Power Weekend, Europe's biggest truck and tractor pulling event. Their truck boasted a powerful 3-turbo DAF engine, known for delivering exhilarating performances. However, during this particular run, things went beyond exciting and became somewhat chaotic. In this instance, the issue was more about tire failure than engine trouble due to the immense weight being pulled. It's not rare for the front wheels of the tractor to lift off the ground under such strain, relying on the hefty rear wheels to continue the pull while the engine blasts at peak capacity. However, this time the tractor's nose lifted too high, leading to a severe impact that shattered the heavy wheels and caused the powerful engine to drag across the ground. The abrupt stop made the sled slam into the back of the tractor. Fortunately, the driver emerged safe from the incident, with no injuries reported among the spectators either. The tractor, on the other hand, wasn't as lucky. Speed bumps are designed to reduce traffic speed and enhance safety in specific zones, yet they can have adverse impacts on both cars and drivers. Vehicles with low ground clearance, such as sports cars, face the risk of bottoming out on speed bumps. This situation happens when the car's underside scrapes or hits the bump, potentially harming the bodywork or exhaust system. Additionally, the sudden jolt can catch drivers off guard, causing them to momentarily lose grip on the steering wheel. This could lead to more severe consequences, including the car rolling over or skidding. Miller Park, situated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin's largest city, is located in the Menomonee Valley neighborhood, just west of downtown. It's near where the Menomonee and Milwaukee rivers meet. The footage of the tragic collapse of the Big Blue Crane into Miller Park on July 14, 1999, was captured by an on-duty official from the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Sochi, nestled in southern Russia, is a resort city known for its warm subtropical climate due to its proximity to the Black Sea. It gained notoriety as the host of the Olympic Games, an event marked by numerous mishaps. On August 3, 2011, the city witnessed another unexpected failure. A construction crew, attempting to relocate one crane using an even larger crane, miscalculated. As tension escalated, the situation reached a critical point until the wires finally gave way and snapped.
Интересный пилот в кабине, он ждет.
Fortunately, no one was injured in the crane accident. However, there were definitely some tough questions to answer afterward. The truck crane was completely wrecked, and it appeared that the collapse also inflicted damage on the construction project they were working on. Towards the end of the incident, you can hear an upset Russian man shouting. While it's not clear exactly what he said, it's likely his words were an exasperated inquiry into how the incident occurred, probably expressed in much stronger terms. The Southern Corridor is a 12-meter wide urban highway that stretches along the southern coast of Panama City, together with its counterpart, the Northern Corridor. These highways encircle the city, facilitating entry to its center from the outer regions. Highways such as the Southern Corridor are prime spots for advertising, evident from the numerous billboards lining the route in metropolitan areas like Panama City. Have you ever pondered the logistics of installing these billboards? This video tries to shed light on this process, but unfortunately it takes a turn for the worse. You can spot the intended slot for the billboard, but the team handling the installation was off mark from the get-go. A closer inspection of the incident, particularly focusing on the yellow crane, reveals the vehicle's rear lifting off the ground early in the attempt. Instead of opting for safety, the crane's driver chose to close the door and stay on board. Another individual, appearing behind the crane and seemingly holding onto a rope or cable attached to the billboard, only released his grip when it became clear the situation was irretrievable. The fire department confirmed that the mishap resulted in no injuries. Nevertheless, the accident caused a significant traffic backup along the Southern Corridor, necessitating 2 additional cranes to navigate through the congestion and address the aftermath. Tower cranes are truly formidable pieces of equipment. Once secured to the foundation, a typical tower crane stands around 265 feet tall, with a jib, or the long arm extending outwards, reaching about 230 feet. If constructed properly, such a crane can effortlessly hoist around 20 tons. However, these cranes don't arrive on site ready to go. It usually requires 10 to 12 semi-trailer trucks to transport all the necessary components. Then, it's up to the workers to spend several days assembling it, much like a giant Lego set. Dismantling it typically takes equally as long. But there was this group of workers in northern France who chose a drastically different approach. Instead of methodically taking the crane apart piece by piece, they simply knocked the entire structure down. Clearly, there was a significant issue with the crane. Dismantling it piece by piece seemed to be not an option, and it's unlikely that it toppled over by accident. Observing the scene, you can notice cables attached to its side, suggesting that the crane was deliberately pulled down. Perhaps, from a financial standpoint, it was deemed more economical to simply demolish it and recycle the materials, rather than paying for a specialized team to disassemble it carefully. This approach represents an unorthodox method of tower crane deconstruction. Dismantling a tower crane can be done through various methods, with gravity being the simplest approach. On October 4, 2014, a team of Russian construction workers was assigned the job of taking down an ancient tower crane. Judging by its appearance, this crane had been erect since the Soviet Union era, and, much like the Soviet Union itself, was destined to fall eventually. It's not certain whether this method is an officially sanctioned way to dismantle a crane, or if it was just considered a good idea by someone on the crew. The setup involved mounting the crane on train tracks that abruptly end. By gaining sufficient momentum, the top-heavy structure tipped forward in a manner similar to a giraffe tripping over a rock. Following this unconventional collapse, the real work begins, cutting the crane into manageable pieces for removal. Crossing a bridge can be nerve-wracking for some, and those in Palm Beach County, Florida, have stories that might justify such anxiety. On October 21, 2021, an incident occurred at the Ocean Avenue Bridge in Lantana, Florida. As a driver was crossing, a bridge employee started closing the gates to open the bridge for an incoming ship. While a biker managed to cross in time, the driver was trapped by the descending gates. After hesitating momentarily, a decision that could have been fatal, the bridge began to open, causing the front tires of his car to get caught in the widening gap. Trapped and panicking, the driver opened his door, seemingly preparing to leap out. Fortunately, he exited the vehicle safely, avoiding a potential 40-foot drop into the water. This event wasn't isolated. Another tragic incident in February 2021 resulted in a 79-year-old woman's death when she was on a bridge as it opened. The operator involved in the October incident stated she didn't see the car due to an obstructed view and expressed regret over the scare and the potential danger caused. Following this, she no longer works as a drawbridge operator. The port of Busan in South Korea is the biggest seaport in the country. It has evolved from a minor trading hub among China. The whole mishap with the Milano Bridge boiled down to an issue with weight. The ship didn't have enough ballast water on board, leading to its propeller emerging above the water surface. It also wasn't loaded with any cargo, which would have added the necessary weight. The Milano Bridge had just been repaired in China and was on its way to Busan to pick up cargo. Interestingly, this ship had bumped into another vessel a few months earlier, which was why it needed repairs in the first place. It seems like the person managing this ship might need a refresher course in boating school. Turkey isn't exactly celebrated for top-notch construction standards. Often, the rules are either bent or outright ignored to get projects done, leading to potentially disastrous outcomes. On March 25, 2023, the city of Yozgat hit the headlines due to a major incident involving a large concrete retaining wall. Security cameras caught the horrifying moment it fell on 11 parked cars in the downtown area. Thankfully, no one was in the cars at the time, but the damage was still massive. The video shows the wall suddenly collapsing, burying the cars under a mountain of rubble. The reason for the wall's failure is still a mystery, with investigations ongoing. Factors like damage from weather conditions or lack of proper structural support are being considered. This event serves as another stark reminder of why regular upkeep and safety checks are crucial to avoid such calamities in the future. Excavators are mainly used for digging and shifting soil around, but sometimes they're used on the fly as impromptu cranes to quickly move large objects. This usually means hoisting hefty construction materials like concrete and metal pipes. The key rule is not to attempt lifting anything heavier than the excavator. It seems one crew missed that memo. On September 1st, 2017, they attempted to lift a huge slab of rock with their excavator. Needless to say, it didn't quite work out as they hoped. It's a mystery whether the rock budged even slightly. That excavator was doomed from the start, and now they're dealing with a lot more trouble. Despite excavators tipping the scales at around 19 to 24 tons, their arms aren't made to handle extremely heavy weights. Sources say that, depending on their size, excavators can lift from 430 to 10,000 pounds at a 10-foot radius. And to think, there are claims out there that the pyramids were constructed using advanced machinery. In the Middle East, a crowd gathered to see crane operators hoist something that appeared to be stadium lights. It looked like they might be prepping for an event, but it's not clear. Whatever their intention, things aren't working out. The object, being too top-heavy, overwhelmed the crane, leading to a catastrophic collapse. Check out this guy making a James Bond-style escape from the crane's cab as it begins to fall. He makes his way out of the door, dashes across the wheel, and leaps to safety, all while the camera shifts right during the collapse. A banner in the background hints at what they could be constructing. The video quality drops when zooming in, making it hard to see clearly, but it seems like they're building a baseball field. If so, this field of dreams definitely needed a return to the planning stage. In Luohu, a city in China, a demolition team faced an embarrassing moment with a tough-to-take-down building on December 30th, 2009. They were set to demolish a 22-story residential building by setting off explosions in the center, hoping both sides would then collapse inward. However, as often happens, things didn't go as smoothly as planned. The demolition company pointed to technical issues for the failed attempt to bring down the building. It turns out that trying to split the building down the middle might not have been the best strategy. Soon after the mishap, a crane was brought in to demolish the remaining half. The goal was to clear the old apartment building to pave the way for new real estate developments. Jebel Ali, located roughly 22 miles southwest of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, is renowned for its bustling port, the 9th busiest globally and the largest man-made harbor. Its significant size also makes it the most frequented port by U.S. Navy ships outside the United States. In early May 2017, a major incident at Jebel Ali port caught everyone's attention, possibly including the U.S. Navy. A container ship, the CMA-CGM Centaurus, approached too quickly and crashed into one of the large loading cranes, creating a dramatic workplace disaster. As trucks and workers went about their usual tasks, everything seemed normal until the Centaurus entered the scene from the top right corner, moving deceptively slow. Initially, the danger wasn't apparent until it became obvious the ship wouldn't stop. A truck and a white SUV quickly made U-turns and fled. Unfortunately, not all vehicles escaped. The ship hit the crane, causing it to bend and eventually collapse, crushing one of the loading trucks completely. It appears the flattened truck was empty at the time, as it didn't move from its spot, suggesting no one was inside. Reports indicated that only a few people sustained minor injuries. The ship's captain later critiqued the port's design, arguing that the tight turns required for large vessels made accidents like this almost inevitable. In Rishon LeZion, a city just 5 miles south of Tel Aviv, Israel, a demolition team set out to take down an old bridge. They positioned 3 heavy machines right in the middle to begin the demolition. However, someone must have got their calculations wrong because what followed wasn't the standard procedure for dismantling a bridge. The center of the bridge weakened under their work, causing that section to break away suddenly. The whole structure came crashing down, pulling the equipment and operators down with it. It was reminiscent of a cartoon character sawing off the branch they're perched on. Local officials showed up quickly and took the site manager in for questioning, likely asking him how such a mishap could occur. The Times of Israel reported that 2 of the operators sustained minor injuries in the collapse. Such incidents, it seems, happen more often than they should, largely due to lax enforcement of safety regulations. In April 2021, a Norfolk Southern train in Springdale, Pennsylvania, smashed into a tractor trailer stuck on the tracks, loaded with bricks and building supplies. It wasn't clear whether the truck had tried to beat the train or if the warning signals failed to activate. Then, a month later, another incident occurred in Richmond, Texas, where an 18-wheeler, this time hauling bottled water, became trapped on the tracks. Despite the truck and its load weighing around 44,000 pounds, it stood no chance against the oncoming train. Clearing up the aftermath took workers several hours after the train literally split the truck in 2. Fortunately, the truck driver had already left the scene, and nobody on the train was injured in the crash. Factories are packed with hazardous equipment where a tiny error or misjudgment can lead to massive financial losses or even graver consequences. On July 6, 2022, a crane collapse almost devastated a factory in China. A worker, oblivious to the impending disaster, stands close by. Suddenly, a massive paper spool appears to fall, pulling down the overhead crane with it. The worker narrowly avoids disaster. The collapsing crane nearly hits the CCTV camera capturing the event. Footage taken after the incident reveals total chaos on the factory floor, resembling the aftermath of an earthquake. The Tachien River, an important river in Nakhon Pathom province of central Thailand, was the site of an incident in late December 2017. A barge, en route from Kosachung to an oil factory with a cargo of soybeans, experienced a sudden engine failure, and its rudder ceased to function. This left the crew with little control over the vessel, resulting in the barge crashing into a bridge. The entire event was recorded by a CCTV camera. Following the bridge collapse, the ship's captain was brought to the Nakhon Chai Sea Police Station and fined 2,000 baht for having a boat license that had expired since 2012. The police also stated that he would be fined for the property damage caused. Fortunately, there were no injuries reported from the incident. In February, and the Pacific Ocean, playing a key role in international trade. Despite its importance, this narrow passage has witnessed numerous mishaps and occurrences. A significant accident occurred in October 2020 when two large ships crashed into each other within this strait, an event that was captured on video. The Ocean Line 5001 in Sierra Leone, a flagged dredger, can be seen approaching a stationary ship called Strovelos. Those watching could only observe as the Ocean Line collided with the tanker, causing damage to its left side hull just above the waterline and partially to the cargo deck. Following the incident, an inquiry was launched to uncover why the crash happened and to find ways to stop such accidents from occurring again. Thankfully, no injuries were reported from this event, and both ships managed to reach a port for necessary repairs. Ecuador's strategic location has made it an important center for maritime traffic, with thousands of vessels docking at its ports annually. However, not every voyage concludes smoothly. In 2020, an incident occurred involving a Chinese fishing vessel named Fu Yuan Yu Leng 999. As it was maneuvering into an Ecuadorian naval shipyard, the ship's pilot lost control. Without any means to steer the vessel, onlookers could only watch helplessly as it veered off course, heading directly towards a pedestrian bridge. After hitting the bridge, the ship finally halted. Luckily, there were no injuries. Further inquiry into the ship's background unearthed previous issues. In 2017, Ecuadorian authorities had detained this vessel for unauthorized fishing activities in the Galapagos Islands. When seized, this factory fishing mothership was discovered to hold 300 tons of fish, among which were 6,000 finned sharks. Since its confiscation, the ship has been under the custody of the National Navy. Just north of Hong Kong lies Shenzhen, China, a bustling sub-provincial city. Summer 2015 saw construction workers making a mad dash for safety as the ground beneath them went all wobbly. The whole site was on the brink of a colossal collapse. They were busy crafting the proposed Changhai district, Shenzhen's future international finance hotspot. Think China's Wall Street. But the shaky ground beneath played spoilsport, pushing the project back, maybe for months, perhaps years. The workers hightail it out of there, the structure making unsettling creaks and cracks. Urgent warnings fill the air as the wall starts to buckle like it's holding back a flood. Bits and pieces start raining down, and then the entire thing crashes. Everything slides off the foundation, bits of road tumbling into the pit across the valley.
完了，赶紧吧，要倒了，要倒了，快走远一点，他们快走远一点。
让保安亭里面的人都走掉。
保安亭走了，走了，走了，走了，走了，走了，走了。完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，要倒了。完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了，完了。哦，好像是，哦，完了，一定要拦，消防一定要拦。完蛋了，完蛋了，完蛋了。哪里有人啊？消防这里面有人。消防怎么会有人呢？有卖饭的，卖饭出来了已经。你叫出来，全部叫出来了，别乱叫，别乱说。哦，还好，还好，人没事。不要乱传，我操！不要乱说。快走远一点，还在逃！快走！喂，快走啊！喂！
Luckily, no one got hurt, but the project took a massive hit. Inspectors pointed fingers at the soft soil under the foundation. Turns out, the project stood on reclaimed land. Basically, man-made ground slapped onto bodies of water. Let's take a moment to talk about Dagestan, Russia. Nestled in the rugged beauty of the Caucasus Mountains, this place is not just picturesque, it's home to communities living in harmony with these towering peaks. Now, imagine those peaceful mountain settlements suddenly cut off from the world. Dagestan, known for its serene landscapes, found itself in the grip of this snowy behemoth, blocking access to several mountainous settlements. Look at the footage, a relentless flow of snow, a sight both mesmerizing and horrifying. This isn't just a weather event, it's a disruption that flips the script for the locals. The aftermath wasn't just difficult, it was a challenge of epic proportions. For the people here, it wasn't just snowfall, it was a test of resilience. Dagestan, usually a haven of natural wonders, found itself facing an unexpected challenge, reminding us of the raw power nature holds over our everyday lives. In Southeast Asia, landslides aren't the only natural disasters casting a shadow. Water has its own ways of wreaking havoc. Case in point, this sinkhole incident in Bangladesh on November 19, 2015. A sinkhole emerged beneath a beach house near the capital of Dhaka, and fortunately, authorities observed the warning signs, evacuating the home before its inevitable collapse. The alarming part lies in the swiftness with which the house vanished, consumed entirely by the ground. A passerby afterward would be oblivious to the fact that a structure once stood there. Sinkholes like this one fall into two categories: natural and man-made. Natural sinkholes result from topographical factors, whereas man-made sinkholes occur when extensive underground excavations induce fatigue in the foundation. Rain exacerbates the situation by weakening the soil and contributing to sinking phenomena. In crane operations, balancing the load is critical. The crane must have sufficient counterbalance at the rear to manage the weight it's lifting. The factors of distance and elevation are key as well, similar to how it's simpler to hold an object directly overhead than extended in front of you. Sadly, one crane operator discovered the importance of these principles through a particularly tough experience. Let's take another look at the incident, but this time, focus on the crane's cab rather than the tumbling bulldozer. As the crane starts to tip over, the operator makes a last-second leap to safety. Fortunately, no one was hurt in this workplace mishap. Indeed, lists crucial skills for crane operators as physics, mathematics, and a deep awareness of safety measures. Clearly, this operator was lacking in these essential skills. It's unlikely he'll be called for job interviews in the near future. Shipping containers are pivotal in global trade, with around 80% of goods being transported by sea at some stage. From 1980 to 2022, the total capacity of container ships surged from 11 million metric tons to approximately 293 million metric tons. With such a massive volume of containers being moved on extremely tight schedules, errors are inevitable. An example of this is a dockside mishap that happened on January 1, 2016, seemingly due to a container not being secured properly. Fortunately, everyone managed to clear the area before the 20-foot container came crashing down. It seems that the container was empty when it fell, but even empty, a 20-foot container weighs between 4,000 and 4,800 pounds. Another notable incident occurred at the Port of Los Angeles, one of the world's busiest ports. In 2022, the port handled 9.9 million TEUs, or 20-foot equivalent units, which represented a 7% decrease from the volume in 2021. The significance of basic training exercises in the Navy, especially those related to safety on a ship, can't be overstated. Consider, for example, a drill involving a lifeboat. If things go wrong and you end up losing the lifeboat, you're in a tough spot. That's a lesson a crew learned through a challenging experience. Their task seemed straightforward: ensure the crane could lift the lifeboat and lower it into the sea. While it might sound mundane, the situation quickly becomes anything but that when plans fall apart. As the lifeboat nears the peak of the crane's reach, crew members stretch out to secure it, almost managing to do so. The crane operator attempts to bring it closer, but unexpectedly, the cables break. This causes the lifeboat to fall back into the sea, and the video recording ends abruptly. Luckily, the lifeboat was unoccupied since this was only a drill, leaving the exact cause of the failure, whether due to human error or a mechanical fault, unknown. Let's hope they won't have any real need for the lifeboat for the rest of their voyage. On October 15, 2020, in Ho Man Tin, a densely populated area in the Kowloon district of Hong Kong, an incident occurred during the construction of the Central Kowloon Route Project, a significant underground highway project aimed at relieving traffic congestion. The project, initiated in 2017 and expected to be completed by 2025, hit a snag when a dramatic accident unfolded. In the footage, workers are seen attempting to lift an excavator out of a large ventilation shaft. However, the excavator starts tipping forward, and realizing the imminent danger, workers quickly evacuate the area. The excavator eventually comes loose and plummets into the shaft. The tensioned wires whip back and forth after the release. Following the incident, work on the 42 billion Hong Kong dollar project was temporarily suspended as authorities investigated the cause of the accident. Possible factors considered included improper rigging or the excavator being too heavy. Fortunately, no one was present in the shaft when the machine fell, averting potential injuries or casualties. The depth of the ventilation shaft remains uncertain. Kandla, located in western India's Gujarat state, serves as a significant seaport and town. Positioned approximately 256 miles from Karachi port in Pakistan and 430 miles from Mumbai's port, it was established in the late 1950s and has since become the primary seaport serving western India. Today, it stands as one of the country's top revenue-generating ports, handling major imports like oil, chemicals, iron and steel, and machinery. However, on August 26, 2023, an incident at the port took a turn for the worse. As the port authorities attempted to return a piece of machinery, specifically a smaller hydro crane, onto a barge using a large crane, disaster struck at the peak of the lift. The crane almost performed a full front flip before crashing into a cloud of dust. Observers noted that the rear strap was overloaded, a fact that seemed obvious to anyone watching. Fortunately, It appears that no one was injured in this expensive workplace mishap. The crane likely became a total loss after the accident. Mixing beer with forklift operations is a recipe for disaster, a lesson learned by workers at a bottle plant through an unfortunate incident. On December 1st, 2007, a forklift driver found himself in a predicament. It appears he inadvertently reversed into a pallet loaded with empty beer bottles. What followed was a tense attempt to maneuver out of the tight situation without causing further chaos. Let's find out if he managed to do so. The situation unfolded pretty much as anticipated, didn't it? According to the initial report, accidents of this nature are a regular occurrence in that specific warehouse. You would assume they'd opt to secure the bottles with shrink wrap rather than stacking them in a precarious manner resembling a house of cards. Nonetheless, the incident produced a notably satisfying sound. Fortunately, the forklift's cab shielded the driver from the shower of falling glass. The challenging part that followed was explaining the mishap to their supervisor. Bridges are designed to stand the test of time, yet none are meant to last indefinitely. The world's oldest surviving bridge, the Arkadiko Bridge in Argolis, Greece, is a testament to ancient engineering, constructed by the Mycenaean Greeks in the late Bronze Age around 1300 to 1190 BCE. Eventually, every bridge reaches a point where demolition and reconstruction become necessary. However, dismantling a bridge, even one built from rocks and clay, is not a task for the inexperienced. Consider the case of an excavator operator who might just be one of the least wise workers out there. Picture the classic scenario in cartoons where a character is sawing off the branch they're sitting on. That's a perfect analogy for this situation. Although the operator had the right idea in mind, his execution was flawed due to poor positioning. When the bridge gave way, so did his excavator, plunging down with the structure. Observing how the excavator fell, it's clear there was an opportunity to approach the bridge from below while maintaining a safe distance. Likely, the lack of a crane or the means to safely lower the machine into the canal led to this oversight. Hopefully, they'll have better fortune in future endeavors. Guayaquil stands as Ecuador's largest and most active port city, central to the nation's economic pulse. Within its bustling confines lies the Cantacon Terminal, a major South American container hub that processes millions of tons of freight annually. A significant event unfolded in this dynamic city back in April 2010, marking a less than auspicious start for the Liberia-flagged container vessel CCNI Antarctico. On its first journey, the ship collided with a gantry crane at the Cantacon Terminal, a mishap that underscored the complexities and hazards of maritime logistics. The collision's aftermath was devastating, with the immense crane buckling under the collision's force and collapsing. According to reports, the CCNI Antarctico had initially grazed another ship while docking before it disastrously struck one of the Cantacon Terminal's 3 gantry cranes. Miraculously, despite the severe disruption and potential for harm, no injuries were reported. However, the crane was damaged beyond salvage, resulting in significant financial losses for the Cantacon Terminal. The incident left the terminal facing a challenging period of recovery and rebuilding. The Kangra district in India is notorious for its torrential downpours, which often lead to serious flooding issues. On the morning of August 20th, 2022, a sudden flash flood in the Chucky River compromised the integrity of a column supporting a railway bridge that had stood for 90 years, located at the junction of Punjab and Himachal Pradesh. This dramatic event drew the attention of the local community, many of whom rushed to the scene and managed to record the exact moment when the bridge gave way. Reports indicated that the bridge's vulnerability was exacerbated by unauthorized mining activities in the riverbed. However, the primary factors leading to the collapse were the bridge's old age and the damage inflicted by floodwaters. Notably, cracks had been observed in one of the bridge's pillars a month prior to the disaster, prompting railway authorities to schedule repairs. It remains unclear whether plans are in place to repair or completely rebuild the bridge in the aftermath of the collapse. Should such a project be undertaken, it is expected to require several years to finish. This incident has underscored the critical risks associated with illegal mining and underscored the importance of diligent maintenance for aging infrastructure. On November 21, 2013, some folks in Russia were driving at night when suddenly the road in front of them just blew up. A pipe under the road burst right as another car was driving over it. That car couldn't stop in time and went straight into the busted road. Then, a bunch of brown stuff, maybe mud or something else, shot up from the ground. Think about all the stuff you could run into while driving, like another car, a wall, or a fire hydrant. Well, this time, the driver literally crashed into the road itself. Somehow, the driver and anyone else in the car got out and seemed to be okay. People nearby were super lucky that the road didn't fall apart even more. Yachts are typically priced from $500,000 to $10 million, a range that varies based on size, model year, and the addition of various luxuries. This pricing doesn't even begin to cover the annual costs associated with maintenance, storage, and transportation, making yacht ownership a pastime exclusive to the exceedingly wealthy. Thus, there was little sympathy when a Russian oligarch's multi-million-dollar yacht met a disastrous fate, tumbling into the water. It's presumed the yacht was insured, offering some consolation. The CCTV footage capturing this event may be old but remains a memorable spectacle. It shows the yacht being delicately lowered into the water, only for its front end to ominously tilt downwards soon after. Moments later, the yacht disastrously flips and plunges into the canal. A salvage operation might have been possible had the yacht remained upright upon impact, but its design, meant to keep it buoyant, ironically ensured it wouldn't right itself. Onlookers, visible in the footage, could only watch, leaving one to ponder if the yacht's owner was among them, or, if not, how daunting it would be to inform them. "Sorry, sir, but we kind of dropped your boat." When operating a crane to lift heavy items, the weight of the object isn't the sole factor to be mindful of. The distance of the lift plays a crucial role too. The longer the crane's arm is extended, the more counterbalance is required to prevent the crane from tipping. This essential principle seemed to have been missed by a crane operator during an attempt to lower a boat into the water. Based on several comments, it's believed that this mishap occurred in Brazil.
Do brasileiro é uma coisa bem interessante. Olha lá o caminhão, você foi a merda. Olha só, olha o que está acontecendo.
The ferry, in its innocent attempt to float, had its day unexpectedly ruined by the crane's mishap. While the extent of the damage caused by the accident remains uncertain, it's probable that the costs involved run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. On July 12, 2017, a ferry off the coast of Turkey lost control and collided with the dock. The exact cause, whether it was engine trouble or the captain's lapse in attention, remains uncertain. The unsettling feeling one gets when witnessing an impending disaster must have gripped the individual in the yellow car as they saw the ferry heading straight for the shore. While large boats may seem slow from a distance, the impact becomes apparent up close. The aftermath reveals sizable chunks of concrete displaced by the collision. It appears the ferry was attempting to dock, but approached with excessive speed. Additional onlookers can be seen moving away on the right side of the CCTV footage. It remains unclear if anyone, aside from the crew, was on board during the crash. The incident drew a crowd as cleanup efforts commenced, prompting the question of where to begin when dealing with such a situation. Take a glance at the construction site drama, Here's another crane that's decided to break free from the vertical status quo and adopt a horizontal vibe. The intriguing part? The reason behind this unexpected change remains an enigma, adding an element of mystery to the daily construction hustle. The bustling city of Bangalore, the capital of the Indian state of Karnataka, holds a rich history dating back to 4000 BCE, when Stone Age artifacts were discovered on its outskirts. Rapid growth has characterized the city's recent trajectory. In 2017, amid plans for expansion, an old theater was razed, and an 80-feet hole was dug for a new high-rise development. However, on July 28, 2020, a local resident noticed cracks forming in a neighboring 3-story building situated perilously close to the massive hole. Predictably, the worst unfolded. Multiple angles captured the building's descent into the hole, sparks flying as it tumbled, unleashing a cloud of dust into the air. Fortunately, the building was vacant, as the fire department successfully evacuated everyone moments before the collapse. While the structure couldn't be salvaged, blame was placed on the developer for inadequate project planning. Compensation for damages likely ensued, serving as a cautionary tale for future excavations in densely populated areas. Workplaces are filled with potential hazards, making strict safety protocols and comprehensive insurance policies essential. The Bureau of Labor Statistics notes that approximately 50,000 workers are injured annually by falling objects, equating to 1 injury every 10 minutes. The severity of these injuries can vary significantly depending on the object's weight. For instance, a falling paint can is less dangerous than a plummeting engine. In one notable incident, warehouse employees narrowly escaped injury when a heavy piece of machinery, possibly a multi-ton engine, fell from above. The incident was prefaced by the ominous movement of shadows across the warehouse floor, hinting at the movement of a large object by cranes overhead. One worker seemed to track the object's movement, while another was occupied elsewhere. The tension in their body language suggested anticipation of something amiss. Suddenly, a large engine-like object crashed to the ground, just missing one of the workers. Fortunately, both were able to avoid the impact zone and escaped unscathed. The specific details of the accident, including its location and the machine's identity, remain unclear. However, one commenter on Reddit, claiming familiarity with large engines, identified the object as a QSK-78. These powerful engines, designed for heavy machinery like excavators and boats, are known for their considerable weight. The only task for this driver was to unload a truck full of water bottles, a job made simpler by the vehicle's retractable sides that facilitate easy access to the pallets. It's expected that the trucker could keep an eye on the forklift driver using the side mirrors, suggesting a lapse in attention may have been at play here. The forklift driver struggled to position the forklift's arms correctly, repeatedly backing up, colliding with the truck, and then repositioning the forklift, but without success. Then, inexplicably, the truck suddenly moved forward, pulling the forklift along with it. The forklift operator managed to escape just in time, narrowly avoiding what could have been a serious accident. Hold on to our final clip, which is the most scariest and most creepiest one, and if you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our creepiest videos. Rocks have a way of fooling you with their weight, often being far heavier than their appearance might suggest. The exact location of the next video is unknown, but it seems to have been recorded just after a significant landslide. The footage shows a road littered with debris, with one particularly large rock obstructing the way. A crane operator arrived on the scene, prepared to remove the obstacle by lifting the massive boulder onto a flatbed truck. However, it quickly became apparent that the rock was more burdensome than anticipated.
Quebrou o troço, tá?
It appears that a failure occurred at the point where the rock was attached, leading to the crane arm swinging out of control, missing the flatbed, and ultimately dragging the entire rig down into the ravine. Remarkably, the crane was being operated remotely by a person standing nearby, ensuring no one was inside the truck as it plummeted. The method used to retrieve the flatbed from the ravine remains unclear, but it's reasonable to speculate that the solution involves summoning a larger crane to handle the task. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with our latest videos.